Give me the countdown. Thank you and welcome back to the public meeting. Just for clarification for people at home watching, we had to adjust the wording. There was a bit of a problem with wording, contradictory, so we changed that wording so that we could pass this bylaw potentially. And now we're on to unanimous consent motion for third reading. Councillor Wagoner.
I move that council give unanimous consent to proceed with the third and final reading of bylaw number 23-08, being the 2023 operating expenditures line of credit borrowing bylaw.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And that motion is carried. Motion for third and final reading. Deputy Mayor.
I'd move that council give third and final reading to bylaw 23-08, being the 2023 operating expenditures line of credit borrowing bylaw.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And that motion is carried. Thank you very much, Liana. You had to stand for a long time. We move now to item 11, councillor information inquiries. 11.1, questions between councillors and council statements. Seeing and hearing none, we can move on to 11.2. We've been presented with the Wheatland Housing Management Board meeting report for November 21st, 2022. Is there any discussion or questions on that report? Seeing none, we can move on. 11.3, question and answer period. Seeing none. Administrative inquiries, we don't have any tonight. And that brings us to 11.5. That brings us to 11.5, notices of motion. 11.5.1, notice of motion, Aquatic Center. Councillor Montgomery.
Yeah, hi. So I'll just go ahead and read this motion and then I'll speak to it. So I will move the council direct administration to review the costs associated with raising the pool temperature in the Aquatic Center and changing the pool programming to include more public swim times, and the council direct administration to conduct a survey with Strathmore residents regarding the pool's temperature and programming. This is in direct response to a lot of questions and comments that I get regarding the pool and the programming of the pool, and especially the pool temperature. I personally think that it's incumbent on council to at least listen to the residents and to manage the facilities or implement the usage of the facilities in a way that is approved of by the general public, or at least the majority of the public. And so for that reason, I think it's worth at least getting some hard data about what the public actually feels about the pool temperature and about the programming at the pool. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have that notice of motion now. There's no discussion on a notice of motion, so that'll come up to us at a later.
Oh, no, excuse me, no, like, so I did the notice of motion.
Oh, you did?
Late last year. So this is actually the motion itself.
Oh, okay, I see it, yeah. Oh, it's, okay, I was confused because the notice of motion is put in here. Okay, so this is the motion to do that. Now we have a motion on the floor from you. Thank you, Councillor Montgomery, for clarifying. Is there discussion on Councillor Montgomery's motion concerning the Aquatic Center?
I haven't formulated my question really well, Councillor Montgomery, but when you speak about cost associated, would you also be looking at the other issues, other than cost? Okay, I don't know how to articulate that really well. Well, not just that. No, just is there more things to think about than just the money? And so I think Director Pretzloff has some more insight into this, unless he wants to vote. Maybe, no, sorry. He has his hand up.
Oh, yeah. Mark.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just try to answering your question, Councillor Peterson. Obviously, there's cost. There's increased cost if you raise the temperature of the pool, or obviously decrease it. Likewise, the other factors that should be considered is the user groups that use the pool. Typically, swim groups and water polo groups and even lane swimmers prefer a colder temperature because obviously you don't realize how much you're exercising when you're doing laps and things like that. So typically, when you have a one basin, you just try to find a standard temperature that meets the needs of both the general public as well as those user groups. Rec facilities that have what we define as a leisure pool and a lap pool typically have different temperatures because they don't allow for for competitive swimming and things like that in a leisure pool. So that's why those pool temperatures are typically higher. So that's just another factor in that. We could pull some numbers, but I'd have to double check. But I believe we have 2 user groups, and their approximate rental is around $30,000. That could be may or may not be impacted by a decision like this.
So then what Councillor Montgomery has put in this notice of motion encapsulates all of that because of the programming context. Is that your understanding too, Councillor?
Yeah, so I was hoping that administration could look at any sort of costs or benefits to changing the pool temperature as mentioned. So I would anticipate, and that's why I wanted to actually poll the public and the user groups because I anticipate there would be some people that would prefer the temperature as is, but my greater question I think is how much can be gained by appealing to more of the public, let's say. And so that's why I'm interested to at least, so we can at least figure that out and know where we're at with some actual data.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Councillor Mitzner.
This is just a question. So could you be on a thermostat like your house when you get up in the morning and it's cooler and the user groups swam like early morning and then it warmed up for the rest of the people?
Through the chair, it's very difficult to regulate the temperature of the pool. It doesn't happen like your furnace. It has to go through the heat exchanger, through the pipes. And now, again, I'm not an engineer by trade, but you're heating a large body of water. I have to look and double check the actual pool size. So it's not exactly, you can drop it one day and you may see a change probably in maybe 2 or 3 weeks as it gets warmer. But please don't hold me to that number. I'll have to talk to the pool manager on that.
Thank you for that. Councillor Langmaid.
Thank you, Worship. One thing I'm curious, Councillor Montgomery, in your motion here, is it your intention that when we went that if administration were to conduct this survey with the Strathmore residents, would that survey also include the information about what the cost might be to increase the temperature of the pool? I guess what I'm thinking is if someone asks me, hey, do you want the pool to be warmer? My quick answer is always, yeah, sure, I'd love it to be warmer. But that might change given some extra context. So I'm kind of wondering, are you anticipating just ask the administration just ask people, would you like to see the pool warmer, or would we be providing that additional context?
I think that's a good question. And I think that it's worth probably having that, you could say would you want the pool warmer, even if it meant some sort of incremental increase in the cost of operating the pool. And to be honest, I anticipated that, I anticipate there would be an increase in the number of people using the pool, just because I have heard from so many people who say they can't even basically swim in the pool because it's so cold. So I'm anticipating that. Well, and I'll give you another example as well. So in one of the first, I think it was 2018, I asked for a list of the usage of the pool. And at that time, the number of people using it for, say, swim club and for water polo, I don't know if water polo was used at that time, and then lane swim, the numbers were in the low hundreds for usage, whereas the number of people using it for public swim was at that time, I think around 14,000. in the previous year or something like that, or the previous 6 months. It was, I think it was like a 10-to-1 ratio of people using it for public swim. So that's why I'm, as much as I think it's great that we appeal to, or we're providing for these user groups that want specific, it done a certain way. I think we should at least listen, and find out from the general public what their feelings are on it. And I think it's worth informing them that there is an additional cost to raising the pool temperature, just to be transparent about it.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Kevin?
Just a supplementary comment. Yeah, I mean, if we were going out, to survey the residents and their cost tolerance, I mean, regardless of that, the motion is about cost, and you have 2 engineers on staff, myself included, and we're the wrong type of engineers, and we've been out of school for too many years. We've already tried to calculate this. So my point is, if we're going out to the public to ask them, before we do that, or if we don't, and this motion still goes ahead, we actually have to spend some money on a consultant, an HVAC consultant. We've tried our hardest, but we're too rusty and the wrong type of engineers. So.
Thank you, Councillor Mitzner.
Can we not request surrounding areas? I'm sure they have swim teams and et cetera. Thank you for temperatures.
Mark?
Through the chair, we've done some preliminary research already on that. I'm just going to focus on pools that only have a lap pool, similar to us. So our average temperature is around 28. Drumheller and Three Hills are 29. Okotoks 28. Cochrane, Canmore 27. Killarney, Thorncliffe, and Glenmore are all within 27s and 28s. So based on that preliminary research, we're right in par with all those other facilities. Again, if they have a leisure pool, like Airdrie, Okotoks, then they have that leisure pool that is much higher temperature. But again, that's where those lane swimmers and user groups would compete in.
Mark, can I ask you a quick question? If the public were to, to do this survey and we look at raising the pool temperature, is there any liability that the town would assume if we raise the temperature and there are difficulties on the swim club team, if there are some health situations that develop because they feel it's too warm or something like that? Are we covered in that?
Not sure. We'd have to actually take
Okay.
that one away.
And we'd probably want to find out what the ideal temperature is for a swim team competing and practicing?
Yeah, through the chair, my preliminary comments about the user groups is that increased pool temperature may drive them to other facilities. Now, again, I haven't asked specifically of each of those presidents of those associations. That's just some anecdotal information from some years of experience. But again, we could always ask the question.
Thank you, Mark. Councillor Langmaid?
Thank you, and this is it's maybe more of a comment than a question in the end. I appreciate where this motion is coming from, but in the end, I believe we'd have to make a significant change to the temperature of the pool before the public would really even notice. Hearing Director Pretzlaff speak about the other temperatures that are in the area where it's 27 degrees, 28 degrees. 29 degrees. I'm not sure going from 28 degrees to 29 degrees is exactly the amount of warming that people would have in mind. And also, I have to say, we have committed in our strategic plan to assessing things through a climate lens as well. So just also the additional consideration of the energy it would take to keep it at a higher temperature and the cumulative impact. Granted, I understand that and recognize that the greenhouse, the green impact, the carbon impact of heating a pool by 1 degree is going to be negligible, but we do want to look through things through that lens. And for that reason, along with a few other things, I'm not sure that I can support this at this time. I don't have a clear idea of what the cost of these might be, including any additional studies, as CIO Scoble mentioned. Again, it's not that I'm against the idea of it or that we shouldn't be listening to our residents, but I'm not ready to support the notice of motion at this time. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Councillor Peterson, Deputy Mayor Peterson.
Thank you, Worship. I just know that in my first term on Strathmore Town Council and in the 2013 term, that this issue arose and there was significant discussion and both more than two sides certainly came forward. And from that, there were a few things that I understood. One was that the swim teams, the competitive teams and the lane swimmers said that having the temperature raised even 2 degrees from the 28 degrees would be suboptimal. The competitive swimmers said that they would have to leave. And the recreation director of the day said that, that it was an understanding that the kiddie pool in the Strathmore pool was a leisure pool, but the large pool was not a leisure pool, and that was a consideration in terms of this. So with that understanding that I carry today, and the idea that we will incur significant cost to undertake this, makes me really shy. Even though I'm interested in the discussion, I am not inclined to spend money. So on the balance of the question, I couldn't support the motion.
Thank you for that. Any further comments? Councillor Montgomery.
Thanks. So I'll just, I guess I'll make a couple of points. So I was on the swim club team in High River for about 9 years growing up. High River actually has a warmer pool. We would go to Okotoks actually, and I mean, you'd basically reluctantly dive into the pool, swim as hard as you could, and then get out as quickly as you could because it's basically ice cold. And so it's and it's not necessarily true. I would say that. Well, I think it's like the Strathmore swim team. Where are they going to go? They're the Strathmore swim team. And I'm not talking. I'm certainly not talking about raising the temperature by 5 degrees. And usually when I go to pools, I go to pools kind of around Southern Alberta a lot, and I ask what they keep the temperature at a lot of times. And usually I find it to be in the range of high 20s. You don't find too many that are in the 30s or the low 30s. And I just want to point out as well, I guess, that we're talking about potentially maintaining a temperature that is less than what 90% of the users of the pool would desire it to be. So as much as it's great to accommodate a few dozen people, if we're doing that at the expense, potentially at the greater, I went to the pool on the weekend, for instance. I go during the week as well, during the day. And so that's why what part of the motion is to actually just ask the public if they would prefer more public swim time. Because currently, when you look at the schedule, it's like the last week, for instance, there was no public swimming. It was all lane swimming. And you have to ask yourself, why would we have it so that there's and when I went on the weekend, and administration can confirm this, but there was probably in the neighborhood of 70 people in the pool. And when you go during the week and there's lane swim, there's maybe 3 or 4 people in the pool at once. So we're talking about and as far as revenue goes, our major revenue generator is public swimming, and we could be making more money if we actually had more time devoted to letting the public swim there. So that's why part of the motion is to at least, and this isn't taking on. I guess if administration wants to recommend it, they can get some sort of an expert to calculate the cost of raising the pool temperature. But I'm more interested in finding out from the public what they want. And I've even seen on Facebook, it's funny, after I submitted this notice of motion, there was even people on Facebook who were talking, they hadn't seen this notice of motion, but they were talking about how cold the pool was and about the lack of public swimming. And I thought, this is perfect actually, because, and quite a few people kind of weighed in on that and were saying, why is there not enough public swimming? And, other people are saying, why is the pool kept so cold? So I think it's this is very timely, I think, to at least respond to the public to their concerns, or at least address their questions, and then we can at least point at it and say, hey, yeah, we listened to you, and here's what we found out. We found out that that yes, that most people do want the pool temperature raised, and we're going to do that, or we're going to look at doing that, or more people want public swimming, or maybe if you're going to find out that more people don't want public swimming, more public swimming, and more people don't want the pool temperature raised. But at the very least, I think it's, as I said, incumbent on council to respond to what we're hearing and seeing, and also to try to operate the pool in the best way possible. And when you're foregoing letting dozens of people in the pool in a public swim session so that you can get 3 or 4 people in the pool for a lane swim, and you're kind of making it so the pool is optimal for that 3 or 4 people, that probably, I don't know if the general public would support that, to be honest. And so that's why I'm saying we should at least be asking the general public how they want their tax dollars spent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Quick question to our CAO. Kevin, as far as the motion is concerned, can you and your staff do that in-house as far as the costs raising the pool temperature to certain degrees? Or I know you mentioned that.
No, that we've tried to do it already. Like I said, you got a couple of rusty, wrong type of engineers.
Yeah,
We've
that's what
done
I
our
thought.
best.
Yeah. So would you need a second motion then? If this were to pass, would you need another motion to approve a certain expenditure for a study?
Yeah, I think we need a funding. I think we need to put a funding request in with this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wiley?
Sure. I was just wondering if admin could give me a really ballpark number on what the pool costs the town a year.
I think we're just trying to look it up.
I want to say it was like $2 million a year, but I can't remember the number. So my question that's going to follow from that is that, given that this pool is such a big expense, and we know it's a big expense, I think that anytime we have the opportunity to invest a small amount of money to look for ways to increase public interest in the pool, or user interest in the pool, or ways to find efficiencies in the pool, I think it is a worthwhile study to be had. And so I am going to be, or I'm very likely going to be, supporting this motion. Still, I wouldn't mind hearing that number from admin if they do find it, because I'm curious if it's as much as 2 million. Are we any closer to finding it?
Thank you, Councillor Wiley. Yes, I think with Mark.
I apologize for the delay, Your Worship. The operating expenses associated with the pool is approximately $2 million. We generate about $500,000 in revenue. And again, the user fees associated with some of those groups also contribute to that. So 1.5 is the total contribution by the town for the operations of the pool.
Yeah, so if 1.5 million is the expense, you think that's 3% then of all tax dollars, 3% goes toward the pool. And we really need to ask ourselves, with such a significant expense, if we're using it as efficiently as possible. And so I think Councillor Montgomery's motion here to take a look at this, I think, is really a really good idea. So I'm in favor of it.
Thank you for that. And I guess I'm asking Kevin, since you're an engineer, would the study then look into the revenue generated versus the potential revenue? Like, how would we know that the potential revenue could offset the cost of raising it by 1 or 2 degrees?
Well, I think the technical or the engineering side, you would establish the cost first, and then you could, I think really the information that you're asking for, we would collect from the residents, right? Like get some indication of, you know, for X dollars and you know, and would you be interested in the temperature increase? Would you be interested in the increased pool hours? Like that's what we would collect user or resident data on, but we'd need the cost information first to also, because it's kind of a multifaceted question. Are you interested in increased swimming pool hours? Are you interested in the increased pool temperature? Are you willing to pay this much for it? That sort of thing. Like you'd have to design the proper survey for the residents. Another comment I would like to make, if council will indulge me, I would really request council's indulgence if we're going to do this study, that it not start until April. The pool, our rec staff, our communication staff, our ledge staff, everybody's full out on the powwow. Like we don't have the capacity, plus our day-to-day, our daily jobs right now. So, you know, if this goes ahead, I would request some leniency from council to undertake it later in the year.
If, Kevin, coming back to that, if this motion were to pass, would the people doing the study also, could they be directed, or would they be doing the survey of Strathmore's residents?
I think we would probably design that in-house. We just need some technical expertise on the cost calculation.
Okay, thank you. So again, if this motion carries, we would need a follow-up motion as far as a study being done with potential a cost limit as to what we would approve.
And some timing when it would come back.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments from councillors? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion is defeated. Do you need a count given out to the people who are at home and may not have seen it? Or the councillors at home? Okay, thank you. So that brings us to item 12, correspondence. Do we have any correspondence tonight? Nobody wants to write to us. And that brings us to a motion to go in camera and have a closed meeting. Deputy Mayor Peterson?
Your Worship, I would move that we go in camera at 8:52. I'm looking for my, yes, that we move in camera at 8:52.
Thank you for that. All in favor?
Aye.
And we are going in camera.